And now it's time to get ready to turn in that paper. In another video and in class, I'll show you how to turn the paper in, the mechanics of actually submitting the paper. Important though, before you do that, is to double check the paper, which is why we have a day called Peer Review Day. It's required, you gotta come, you gotta fill out the paperwork. You also gotta get into the spirit of things, because Peer Review Day really does help the final product. Remember, these papers aren't just a spontaneous autobiography of what you did 5 minutes before the due date. They really should be thought out things and prepared pieces of writing that you spend some time thinking and perfecting as best you can. So, to that end, we turn in our papers very soon, but we try to get them just right. Remember that if you're thinking about just emailing me the paper, I try to discourage that because it will slow it down. Not only will you get your papers back last, it will slow the whole procedure of my reviewing everyone's paper. So please don't do that. If you need to test out the software, please do so. There is a way to do that by just simply submitting and resubmitting a paper until you're ready to actually turn it in. You can submit it anytime up until the deadline. What we're looking at now, though, is revision, which this class tries to teach, and it tries to teach it because it produces better writing overall. And it means to re-envision your paper. That's where it comes from. On Peer Review Day especially, here are some guidelines and rules and suggestions. I will not read full drafts for obvious reasons. However, I can answer questions and catch common problems. The time for reading full drafts is really now over. I need to answer specific questions, otherwise I have a line outside my office of everyone who wants me to review their paper. You might remember, though, over the course of the preceding classes and videos, how many potential problems I've tried to suggest avoiding, how I've tried to catch common errors, and try to suggest ways of doing this assignment well. In Peer Review Day, also oftentimes hits upon the same day as a quiz, too, so it's to your advantage to come for multiple reasons, because we're re-emphasizing some of the core ideas of the class, especially as they relate to your assignment. The procedure here is to check your papers in an organized fashion, get feedback from at least two people from class. When you have downtime, there'll be a worksheet available for you to work on. Overall, this period is meant to be social and helpful. I try to make it so easy that people get something out of it. The yellow sheet is for notes, so it can be imperfect. The worksheet's required for you to do, but I would not want people to try to have a perfect worksheet and have a paper that's less perfect because you didn't spend any time on that. The handout I give on a day like today is meant to help perfect the paper. That's the goal, producing the better paper. That's why we do it. So make sure that you have your priorities straight. You're never limited to what we do in class. If you want to follow up from class with one of your peer reviewers, or with me, or with the tutors over in the Writing Center, you can do a lot of different things to help supplement what we do in class, but we found that if we don't do this, people won't take it seriously. Oftentimes they'll run to class with their paper, and as I've said in other videos and in class, students have turned in papers for other classes, have turned in pages out of order. Strange things happen when students don't give their paper another going over. Keep the yellow sheets and the worksheets that you get today. You want to review them to see whether your reviewers agree on what they've said to you. Oh, and here comes an old cartoon. No one will remember probably Goofus and Gallant, but I had Goofus and Gallant growing up. And what is this about? Goofus does things the wrong way, Gallant does things the right way. The idea here is that Goofus turns the paper quickly in without checking it over, and of course we don't want to be like Goofus. We want to be like Gallant. Gallant knows the value of peer review, and this old truth, if something's worth doing, then it's worth doing well. Got to do it in the right way, otherwise that scissors is going to go right through us, and the essay is not going to get the full credit that it really should get. Here comes some words here. That's what that says. Here comes a lot of words rather than cartoons. And that's because I need to explain the rationale. This day, and days like it that we have during the semester, is a vital once over, where a second set of eyes never hurts your paper. It's rare that readers don't offer any help during days like today. These are old-fashioned but still true ideas about peer review. Writing about our experiences refines our thinking about them, which is what your assignment has you do. You want to be able to observe aspects about your writing just like you observed your environment and be able to describe them. Moreover, reading the writing of classmates who are trying to achieve the same goals improves our reading of our drafts, giving us a fresh eyes on what we have done. And that's maybe even a more important reason for why we have this kind of day. We see what others have done. It builds in a knowledge of how others have approached this assignment. It makes us check ourselves to see whether we've got an idea that's similar to theirs and that we're fulfilling the criteria of what we need to do for our assignment. It really comes through practice. People who practice this on a regular basis with their classmates who are in their classes and who know the assignment, generally speaking, do better on what they're producing for class. Plus, it helps get through the class. And reading the writing of our classmates who are trying to achieve the same goals improves the reading of our drafts, gives us a fresh eyes on what we've done. You might compare it to a chemistry class. When you're asked to perform a review of a lab that has been done countless times before, why are you asked to do that? Why are you asked to show your work in math problems and assignments? It's in part because you're practicing the process of doing it right. And so too with writing, you're asked to practice the process of reviewing and revising, trying to get your ideas just so with language. As much as it may surprise you, discoveries can still be made. Be surprised at how even the best writers find corrections that they can make, sometimes big sections of paragraphs they want to revise. And for those students who are just starting out or have hit a mental block, they can get started on this day because it's not too late to at least achieve something. You see here, writing about our experiences also trains our brains to see our own observations in different ways with different foci, foci. Like Scudder, we are looking at our experience and then we are looking at our experience again. Peer review, observing and responding to others doing a similar assignment allows us to see our own work in a new way. It becomes purposeful reading. We're really paying attention to things. Not just ripping off from another classmate. The best writers, as I'll use examples of in class and as we read about during the course of the semester, know the value of reviewing their writing. This process formalizes what students should be doing anyway. So key. We found that we had to incorporate it in class because students weren't doing it or didn't see the value of it, and yet it's so essential. We don't just ask mom or dad or grandpa or Billy Joe Bob from down the street. Why not? In part because you're with classmates. And what do the classmates have that Billy Joe Bob might not have? What do your classmates around you have that mom or dad might not have? And we'll answer this key question in class. If I could, I'd circle it for you. Underline it and italicize it, because you might ask yourself, why is it important that classmates actually review your work rather than anybody or any old person, any person at all? There's a reason why Gallant will always choose a classmate over just anybody off the street. No offense to mom and dad, no offense to the friends that we have down the street. It's still a very old-fashioned but true idea, as E.M. Forster once articulated, that we see what we think once we see it in paper. We refine our thinking through writing. Or as E.M. Forster says, how can I know what I think until I see what I say? He was no dummy, E.M. Forster. The idea being here that we refine, revise, improve upon our ideas, and we become more aware of them, frankly, once we start seeing them in print. It has to do with this observation description. We're better able to describe what it is that our own thinking allows us to see once we see those words in print. Or, if you like, we think in ink. In a math section, we might show our work on a test or even on an assignment. In other fields of study, we show the process by which we come to our conclusion. So too here, we're trying to show and understand the process by which we revise our own papers with an eye toward becoming better. We don't have to rely on the old models or even the stressful models of not getting it right the first time or not putting our best effort into it. Okay, so the idea here is to check our papers in an organized way, feedback from at least 2 people, checking for the criteria of the assignment, idea development, clarity, those are all on the assignment. When you have downtime, there's a worksheet for you. Again, it's meant to be social and helpful. Meant to actually enjoy what you're doing, be able to talk through it. Even though there's a worksheet with a checklist provided, you're meant to actually talk about what it is that you've read, which makes it a much more pleasurable activity when you get into the spirit of it. I always kind of look forward to these days because I wanted to do well on the assignment, or as best as I could, and this was a way to do that. And other classmates I worked with knew the value of it and could give and get good feedback.